Welcome to the Retrospect podcast, a show where people come together from different walks of life and discuss a topic from their generation's perspective. My name is Ian, and as always, I'm joined by Sony.
Hello.
And Jason.
Hello, everyone.
How's it going?
Well,
it's hot in California.
it's hot in California.
And I heard it's also like snowing and frigid on the East Coast. So we're
Yeah, I think it's I saw some long range forecast models, and looks like it's going to be getting a lot colder.
really.
Yeah. I know for our area, I think we might be getting down to the 20s.
Really?
They've had some
man.
videos of Lake Michigan icing over and big ice chunks just floating all up in the waves and everything.
Really?
Yep.
And
Another ice age? Oh yeah, global warming is here to stay, and we got another ice age coming.
Yeah, I think that's so we've turned some of this stuff so political now, and
of course.
And you had people saying that the oceans are going to cover everything by 50 years from now. Just crazy talk.
No, they've been saying that for a long time, and none of their predictions have come true.
Crazy talk.
None of
That's
them
all
have
it
come
is.
true. The
Yeah.
only thing that has come true is they've gotten richer.
They've gotten richer.
Yep.
Well, I'm right now, just kind of on a personal note, I'm getting ready to run the Louisiana Marathon.
There you go.
Coming up at the end of this week. At the time of this recording, we record on Mondays, so it'll be this coming Sunday.
So by the time you hear this, you'll already be passed out.
Exactly. I've already been done my deal.
Yeah.
Well, I'm doing the half. I'm not doing the full. The full will be in Little Rock for me. And I'm still trying to see how my body's going to hold up that
That's
long.
supposed to be a little bit cooler weather. How does that react to your running, or does your running react to that?
Well, it can be just bad. Depends on how cold it is. For me, I don't like cold weather.
Right.
Running. To me, ideal starting would be about 52 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
That to me would be perfect.
Okay.
Because it's not too cold, it's not hot, and it's just the right amount of right there in that sweet spot. But trying to find that.
Sunday looks like it's the highest 54 and the lowest 30 with a 0% chance of rain.
That's Sunday night or Sunday morning. I'm trying to because I know there's a front moving through. I'm just trying to figure out when.
Well, the front moves through Saturday, and that's a 68 to 43. So I don't know, is the 43 Sunday morning, or that
It may be 43 Sunday morning, which would be tolerable. Which means it's going to be getting colder during the day.
Monday or Tuesday will be in the mid-20s.
Yeah, so I thought.
That's crazy. That's cold.
That's
Wow.
chilly.
Yeah.
Well, as I said, he can stay cold as long as I can stay inside.
Of course, yeah.
He can be
right?
cold all
I'm
he
fine.
wants. As long as I can be inside, then I'm fine. But if I've got to go run in that, then
Yeah, it's a little different story.
The 40s can be a little chilly. Now I know a couple friends of mine. They love that 40s.
Mm-hmm. I love the 40s. I'd rather be 40 than
Really?
80. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But so I'll be doing that.
Well, you got to look at it like this. You can always layer up. You can always add another piece of clothes if it gets colder, but you can only take off so many if it gets hotter before it really gets embarrassing or arrest-worthy.
Yeah.
Well,
becomes indecent exposure.
That's why, to me, I don't like it too hot. I don't like
Yeah.
it too cold. I like it somewhere in the middle.
Okay,
and-
Goldilocks.
Unfortunately,
Just right.
Unfortunately, I cannot get that happy medium. That
Well, in the Stoney house, we live within a 2-degree window.
All right.
With Hottie Dr. Miranda, where she's comfortable.
Okay.
She's either too cold,
Got
1
it.
degree, 2 degrees, too hot.
Got it.
So there's a 2-degree window.
Is it 72 to 74?
No, 70 to 72.
Okay, I was close. Okay. All right.
So, yeah.
right now, I think my heater was on at my house. I had it set for 70.
Right.
So that's about where I like it to be.
I like to usually I usually set it a lot colder when I'm sleeping. So I'll probably set it to like 68.
Well, all
So
the
it's
medical
No,
journals have
I don't
stated.
put the heater on during the night.
No, yeah.
They say 64 to 68 is the optimum temperature to get your best night's sleep.
Oh, I
Yeah.
feel it.
64 to 68.
The only time I'll turn the heater on, like, because this house is lifted, it does get quite cold, like especially the floor does.
Yeah, you don't have no insulation.
And so I'll set it to like 65, 66, whatever. So because like sometimes it can, like in here it can get pretty cold during the night, especially when it gets those like really, really cold nights. But I don't do that all the time.
Yeah, I bundle up at night.
Yeah.
I can't, when it gets hot, I can't sleep at night. I've got to have it cold.
Yeah.
But during the day, when I get up, I want it to kind of knock the chill out of the air.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
So, but yeah. So it's been this past week was good.
Mm-hmm. And Miranda has like 15 layers on her side of the bed.
No.
Yes.
Okay.
I have 3.
Right.
She has 15.
Got it.
And it's all night, on, off, more
Right.
off, more on, more off, more on.
Hey, there you go. A little dance.
Mm-hmm. Threatened to get her one of those little cooler heaters that sit at the foot of the bed and come up through the sheet. And it's between the sheet and the mattress.
All right.
And you set it at a temperature, and it blows whatever temperature that is through the sheets.
Really?
Yeah, I need to get her one.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
yeah.
So y'all had a good week.
I just
since our last recording.
Yeah. I just recently watched Nosferatu, and I can't imagine anybody wants to bring their kids to go watch that, but I would definitely recommend do not bring your kids to go watch that movie. It's a bit traumatizing. It is like a classical horror film,
right?
They even have like the kind of they don't reveal Nosferatu right at the beginning. Like,
well, of course not.
He's all in mystery and hidden, and then whenever you get that reveal, you're like, oh god, and it's really cool. I thought it was a really wonderful movie. It was beautifully shot. The acting in it, the main actress is Johnny Depp's daughter, I believe. She did a phenomenal job. It's all I could ask for from like a really cool, great horror movie.
What did they go in and talk about? Where does Nosferatu come from?
A little bit. They have like an old, like I think at some point in time they kind of talk about like the curse of what he is and how to kind of take care of him and that, or how to get rid of him in that regard. But I don't think they go into, at least not that I remember. I only watched it once, so there may be some more nuanced things I can pick out after like a second or third viewing. So, but I would definitely recommend if you want like a gothic style, like 1800s horror, psychological body horror, kind of gross, kind of crazy. Like, I would definitely recommend it. It was so good.
Did you ever watch Penny Dreadful when it came out on Showtime? There was a series called.
I just had a friend who recommended that I should watch that.
Penny Dreadful. What's her name? Eva Green, Eva Green, or whatever her name is. That actress from, I think she's from, I forget if she's from England or somewhere. I love her. I think she's beautiful, and I think she does a great job in those roles.
Yeah,
but she's in it. But it's all the classic. Monsters. There's Frankenstein. There's the Wolfman, and there's
speaking of the same entertainment company, Focus Entertainment or whatever, that made Nosferatu, I think is making a Wolfman.
Oh, they're making the Wolfman,
and it looks nasty.
Yeah. Well, look,
you talk about body horror.
When it comes to werewolf, I mean, I've always been partial to the werewolf. When it comes to the monsters, I kind of like the werewolf. We've always talked about the werewolf versus the vampire and all that stuff. But I've enjoyed that, like the Howling, or the American Werewolf in London. Was some of the classics that I remember. But yeah, good stuff. Some of those shows, but
they don't make them anymore like they used to, like the movie Firestarter.
Oh yeah, that was a Stephen King.
Yes, Stephen King.
Stephen King made a lot of movies. Some of these movies have come out are remakes from Stephen King's books.
Oh, yeah.
And it's amazing some of the things that he's written. A matter of fact, I think was it with the movie with Tom Hanks? The prison movie where
The Green Mile.
I believe that was Stephen King.
Really?
double check that, but I believe that was Stephen King who wrote that. Yeah, I think it was Stephen King.
Yeah, story by Stephen King.
Yeah, so I thought. I mean, so he's a great writer. I mean, he can really come up with all kind of stuff, like like The Dark Tower and a lot of those kind of movies, but
right
stuff.
Well, I was really trying to segue into our subject for today. Because there apparently is some fire starters in California.
What is our subject today, Stoney?
The fires in California.
Okay, well,
and the incompetence of the Liberal Party over there, and what do you think's going on over there?
I think you've got a state government in cahoots with local governments over there that don't seem to understand how nature works.
Mm-hmm.
The fact of the matter is, there has always been wildfires in California and even in other places. The problem is now people are living there where these fires used to be able to just rage and do their thing, and they, clear out all the dead underbrush, refertilize the ground, and what does nature do? It regrows new stuff.
But see, that's part of the problem. Last year, there were 13,909 fires started by homeless individuals. There has been zero forest management last year.
Exactly.
The mayor cut the fire department funding in the city by $17 million. Firefighters were fired for not getting vaccinated. They launched a DEI bureau instead of focusing on training. No water because California didn't fill the reservoirs because they were funneling the water back to the ocean to save a small fish. They gave firefighting equipment to the Ukraine in 2022. And big insurance companies have left California due to overregulation and poor fire prevention management.
Yeah.
Wow, not everything is a conspiracy. Some things are just factual.
Yeah.
And called liberal incompetence.
Yeah, I'm saying, I think it's I'm reading right now a really good article from The Hill. Just kind of really goes back in 2020. The Trump White House introduced a water conservation measure. It was designed to balance environmental concerns with critical water needs for California's farms and communities. At that time, Governor Newsom's administration filed a lawsuit to block the implementation of this particular measure, citing protection of a tiny fish called the Delta smelt. And so, unfortunately, as a result of that, nothing has been done. And we are living with a disaster. And look, I don't want to get into another state's business too much because, I mean, the politics of that state is what it is. And the people there, for whatever reason, continue to vote for people that
are stupid,
that want to implement these kind of policies. Well, I think for the first time, I think those very same people are now waking up to the realization that maybe what we're doing is not the ideal way of managing fires in this state, because there's been a number of celebrities as of homes have been completely lost. And as Stoney mentioned, with the insurance crisis deepening in that state, State Farm pulled out. If you recall, State Farm wanted to raise rates. California said no. Not only did California say no, then they said, well, you're going to have to insure all these other people. So what does State Farm do? They basically said, you know what? If you're not going to allow us to raise rates and you're making us expand our liability portfolio, because that's exactly what was happening, we're just going to leave the state. And for a lot of people in California, they also have a insurer of last resort in that state. It's very similar to what we have here in our state. But it only covers about $3 million in damages, which is nothing for California residents.
Well, I want to touch on two things at that point. One, if we remember, Donald Trump was mocked for sounding the alarm in California water fire crisis during his interview with Joe Rogan. Do y'all remember that? He went on about a 7-minute rant about the issue, blasting Newsom for not doing anything to fix the problem. He specifically discussed the Californian Delta smelt controversy, where the rainwater was being wasted, directed into the Pacific Ocean. I mean, you're just pissing your water away at that point. So he was right again about this. And right now they're estimating this to be about $150 billion loss so far. That's up till today, not counting it's still burning.
Right.
And then Sleepy Joe Biden from the Biden crime family comes out and says, we're behind California 100%, and the government is going to 100% fix this and resolve this issue. No, California needs to get the same $750 loan that the North Carolina people got. I don't give a rat's ass if they have a $50 million mansion that burned down. You get $750, just like the people in North Carolina got. And by the way, that's not a gift. That was a loan from the U.S. government. That has to be paid back, and the people in California need to get that too. No more. Not a dime more.
If I'm not mistaken, I think some insurance companies have also hopped out of Louisiana for some similar reasons.
Well,
high climate risk.
I think you
the flooding and hurricanes.
I don't know what the issue is, and this is where I think that when it comes to insurance, and that's a whole nother episode. We can talk about insurance and what communities are allowing to be built in certain areas, not thinking of kind of the collateral effects of allowing that. And I know people are going to get all upset about that. Well, I live where I choose to live, and on and on and on.
Right.
Well, that's fine. Well, then build your home with your own money.
The same thing can be said about people
if you can get a loan, if somebody will loan you with money with no insurance, or you can get somebody else, then do it. But unfortunately, it's like we have here. We've allowed people to build in the floodplain.
Oh yeah, I was going to say that the same people that live on the shorefront properties in Florida. It's like those are wonderful, beautiful properties, but you're also,
But here's the problem with that is they and I wish I'd have known we were going in this direction. I would have brought it. There was a study done of the continental United States,
right,
where nothing has happened. No ice storms, no blizzards, no hurricanes, no earthquakes, no flooding, nothing. And there's about a 6 square mile area right in the middle of the country that was right below Tornado Alley. But now, since they are moving Tornado Alley down into Louisiana, that's no longer there. So I'm sorry, no matter where you are in America, you stand a chance of something happening.
Of course.
Hurricane, tornado, blizzard, snow, flood, earthquake, something. There's no place you can go and be safe.
Well,
and that's part of the problem. When you decide you want to be an insurance company, that's the risk you take.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If that's the case, and look, I'm no fan of the insurance industry, but I mean the reality is, and every business that operates with a board of directors, and they have to report dividends and stockholders, and they're going to be looking at, well, how much money is this company making? Should I invest in this company? And as long as insurance is a private entity, then it's always going to be, at the end of the day, how much money am I making? What's the point? Why am I in this bit? If I can't make money and I can't mitigate my risk, then why am I in this business?
You're right. But you know what? With all of the things going on, they can still make $40 billion in profit last year. Okay, so they're still making money.
Well, they're making
people are still losing everything, and they're making $40 billion.
They're making $40 billion because they deny a lot of claims.
Yeah. Now, what you also have to understand is that's not $40 billion profit last year. The way that works is that's how much more profit than they made the year before.
Right.
Okay, so they still made, so let's just say in 2022, they made $22 billion in profit. Okay, so what that is how much more did they make than that? Mm-hmm. So technically they made $66 billion in profit, but we're not going to report the early amount because that's what we made, but it's still on top of that. So it's bullshit is what it is.
I didn't realize this. I learned about how insurance agents, how they make their money.
Yeah.
And part of their income, or whether it comes in the form of a bonus or something, but in essence, all their policy holders that are under that particular agent, if there's no major claims, if there's no things like that, then they get a check. What they don't like is when people have to have a new roof put on their house, or whatever the case may be, because unfortunately that affects how much they're going to probably get, or if they're not going to get anything at all that year. Which I didn't realize that. But how
many times have you heard people? So Miranda and I've said it. Oh well, we're not going to report that to the insurance company.
Exactly.
All they're going to do is deny it, or raise our rates, or deny it and raise our rates.
Yep, you're right.
So people are still paying for the insurance, and then paying for stuff out of pocket.
Insurance, it's a scam. It's a scam. I will say this, because the whole premise is based upon nothing happening.
Right.
And look, at the end of the day, if something does happen, your house burns to the ground, or gets wiped out in a tornado, or whatever the case may be, you want to be able to have someone come in and give you a check.
Right.
To rebuild.
There's people right now online that are saying, I'm not sure what insurance companies are saying this, but apparently there are some insurance companies saying we don't have any more money to give. And everyone's like, so we pay you all this money every month, and now you don't have any money left.
This stuff that's happening in California, I'm telling you, that's going to affect us here where we live.
Yeah.
Because it's a giant pool of money.
Yeah.
Because insurance companies go to Lords of London to get their reinsurance.
Yeah.
And depending on how those rates work, factor into a lot of this decision of whether a company chooses to write policies in a given area or not. That's why they pulled out of California. Because basically California said, we're not going to allow you to raise rates. Right. And you're going to have to insure everybody. Well, okay. There are consequences to that. There just is. And State Farm, as a private company, said, you know what? We're done. We're out of here. Even though I'm sure it's probably very lucrative to write policies in that state.
Oh, yeah.
But they pulled out. And I think others have also. But just FYI, just to kind of discover the scope of the tragedy over there, it's been a terrible ordeal. The pictures I've seen are absolutely just, it looks like a scene out of the Book of Eli, if anybody remembers that movie. But it looks like an apocalypse out there. But just a few celebrities that I saw that had their homes burned to the ground. Billy Crystal, we all know him. 45 years of memories gone for him. Mel Gibson, I watched his interview with Joe Rogan. Matter of fact, while he was doing the interview, his house burned to the ground.
Oh, my God.
Anthony Hopkins, $6 million estate destroyed.
That's wild.
Miles Teller, $9.5 million dream home bought in 2023 gone. Paris Hilton's Malibu mansion obliterated. And guess what? These people, as much as we like to kind of cast shade on them,
yeah,
guess what? They're also now are not going to be able to get insurance.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
To be able to cover this. So now that's what I'm saying. It's now affecting these very same people, and not all those people that I mentioned are people that I would say would voted for Gavin Newsom or for the policies that are in play. I can probably tell you one or two on that list are probably in the opposite direction of their politics.
Yeah.
But the reality is it's California's FAIR plan, which is their insurer of last resort. It only covers $3 million in losses. And you know as well as I do, it doesn't take much in the state of California for a house to be valued at $3 million.
100%. Yeah.
I mean, it could
bedroom,
be
two bathroom.
a two-bedroom house is a $3 million home.
Right.
Let alone what some of those other houses cost. So, yeah, it's a terrible situation out there. And unfortunately, we've got, Gavin Newsom promised.
Mm-hmm.
He promised that he would treat 500,000 of acres forest annually. You know what he's done?
0.
He said the state has only managed a fraction of that. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, billions of dollars have been funneled into green energy projects and symbolic gestures that do nothing to address the immediate and growing threat of wildfires. So this is what I'm saying, where politics have gotten so awry. Mm-hmm. Everything is now identity politics, and we've lost just common sense approach to managing every day-to-day problems that we all face, depending on what area you live in the United States, because it's all different. Yeah. Here in Louisiana, we deal with different things than they do in California, but they're just as destructive.
Yeah,
but destruction is a great word, because this area, they want to talk about making Hollywood a smart city, right? They want to talk about making these areas smart cities. And I want to touch on in a minute, I have a map for y'all to look at here. Mm-hmm. But what's one of the first things you do, and the state of California has done it, in making a smart city or smart energy? What's the first thing you do? What's the first thing you want to change in a house?
You want to make it more energy efficient?
Just what's the first thing you're going to do to have control over people? Remember they did it?
The thermostat.
The thermostat and the meter.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Right? Okay. So what is in these?
Smart.
Lithium batteries. Okay. So what happens to a lithium battery when it gets hot? When you get a lithium battery up to 200 degrees, it can go from 201 to 6,000 degrees in milliseconds. So now you're getting this heat right beside these homes through the brush and the homes, and then all of a sudden the thermostat and the power meter decide to go to 6,000 degrees. Now what's happening to your home? So welcome to green energy yet once again. So now what do we have to do? Cut down all the trees and shrubs around houses so we can have smart meters? I don't think so.
I think that it's also, this is interesting because I hate to say this, but I think it's very true, is that I'm not saying that they don't understand the importance of wildfires, because I believe that probably Los Angeles probably does understand the importance of it, but it's situations like this that hit people really close to home and that then try to make change. You can try to make change before then, but whenever there's no real immediate threat and things are, it's the same thing with people who like have medication they need to take regularly for a condition, and they're like, well, I started feeling better, so I stopped taking it. Right. But now your condition's back. It's the same sort. I think I don't again, I could be wrong, and I'm totally willing to be wrong. But I feel like you get comfortable enough, you have people in power that are like, we manage it enough and we can divert the money to these other projects and these other things and all these things that are kind of like fluffy, nonsense. But then whenever like real catastrophe strikes and there's no real infrastructure in place, then it's like, well, where were you at? Well, now it's like, I think now change will happen. and it's unfortunate that it had to happen at the cost of so many people's homes.
Well, you just got it kind of right in a way that these people have lived a sheltered life, and they can have these wonderful little pet projects, and they can say how wonderful this liberal state is. Look what we have. We're doing the green thing. Well, all of this has bit them on the face now because all of the money, it's kind of like when Katrina happened and the levees broke.
Yeah, very
and
sad,
everybody wanted to beat up on the Republicans. Well, first off, New Orleans has never had a Republican mayor. And second off, where did the $35 million a year from the federal government go for levee management? Well, obviously, it wasn't being spent on the levees.
It's just incompetence.
It's pure liberal incompetence, funneling money. And that's like my point. Somebody said, well, why is Joe Biden saying all this money needs to go to California now? Because his Ukraine funding is fixing to stop.
Yep.
So he's sending all of this money saying, okay, Newsom, look, I'm going to give you billions of dollars. You just need to make sure, 200 million of that slide back to my Biden crime family. Because that's all this is. This is another money laundering game for the liberals to push around money. They spent what? How many? $16 to $32 billion for energy and these charging stations for electric vehicles, and they've put in 20 stations across the country.
Yeah.
Where did the other $32 billion go?
It's just, that's what I'm saying. Look, we can go,
But people want to complain about Trump coming in and saying, Department of Government Efficiency.
That's what I'm saying. There is no, and that we've talked about the problems of government efficiency, ad nauseum. Why doesn't it work the way it's intended to work? And the problem is because the people that are managing this stuff and the ideologues that are in there are not. They don't live in the real world. They just don't. They live in a fantasy world that if somehow I do this, somehow all these other things are just not going to happen. There's no consensus. That's unfortunately that's the issue. There's no consensus of what we need to do as a country. I look at the Netherlands and the amount of money and the amount of kind of national push to build dikes and reclaim land from the sea. What sort of kind of ever? And I think of why can't that be replicated in New Orleans with flood protection? You think about that. The problem is that our country we're so big.
Yeah.
And there's so many different groups of people with their own subset of issues. No one wants to look at things in a collective sense and say, yes, we need to tackle this. And once again, I'll go back. We need to put America first. And that kind of taps into this deal of constantly funneling all these billions of dollars to these other countries when we can't even, we got bridges to be built, interstates to be repaired, all these things that are critical infrastructure projects that just seem that it's like pulling teeth.
Did you see
get things done?
Right before Christmas, the State Department confirmed that it sends $80 million in cash to Afghanistan, which is under Taliban control, every 10 to 14 days.
It's just
okay.
Days.
Wow.
Jeez.
Yes, every 10 to 14 days. That was confirmed by the State Department. Meanwhile, 1 million U.S. adults go bankrupt from medical bills. 47 million Americans experience food insecurity. Attending an in-state university is about $24,000 a year. And 22.4 million households are spending well over 30% of their income on rent or housing. Okay, do the math. 80 million in cash every 10 to 14 days. That's $160 million a month or more times 12. to the Taliban. That's just one instance. That's just something they came for and actually admitted to. What are they not admitting to?
Right.
I mean, could you? That's what I'm saying. Why can't this money go to help Americans? And that's the problem. And I think part of that is Trump tapped into some of this growing resentment and anger at the inability of our own leaders in this country to actually look out for this country and the people that elected you to do what you need to do, and sit worrying about all these other things and keeping the military-industrial complex funded way over what look, we all remember the stories of the $10,000 gold toilets. Remember that in the 80s?
Oh, yeah.
This is what I'm saying. This is the government waste that we talk about. But, we talk about government waste at the federal level. We ain't even talk about what's going on at the state level and local level of government. This problem is not a federal problem only. It's a government problem in general. There is a lack of consensus among us to push our elected leaders to deliver on the things that are most important. We just can't seem to do it.
They're not our elected leaders. They are our elected representatives.
Well,
they are not our leaders. They never have been. They never will be. They are our representatives, and they are not representing us right now at all and haven't been for decades.
I feel bad I feel terrible for these residents of California, because there are probably a lot of good people that pay. I mean, you've heard it. They pay some of the very highest taxes
where was the uproar
in the country.
But see, that's their problem. They choose to live there. Where was this uproar when North Carolina was flooding and washing away? Where was this uproar? Oh, look, it's our stars. They won't be able to go make movies for us and entertain us and feed our delusions about what life is supposed to be like. I don't care.
Well,
why weren't they doing this in the North Carolina people? Why don't they take care of the people in Louisiana?
Because there's not that much money there. It's all like he said, it's a big money pile.
That's all it is.
Hollywood is a money pile. And now that it's in flames, it's like everyone's like, oh, I got to get my stuff together now.
I went to the fire.california.gov website. I think this is their fire and forestry governmental website, and they have the current emergency incidents. I'm reading here they had 20,967 total emergency responses. They had 124 separate wildfires, 40,588 acres burned. So far, according to this, 19 fatalities. I saw some AP story. It's even higher than that. And over 12,300 structures destroyed. So this is a magnitude of, I don't want to say everything is apocalyptic, because the fact of the matter, I'll say this, in another couple of years, there'll be another disaster just like this or something else.
But when you're watching this, apocalyptic, you're right, may not be the best word, but for me, it's stupilictic. Okay? The liberal agenda in California is so stupid that other states have sent fire trucks to help with the fires, who are sitting there and can't move because they don't meet the environmental regulations of the state. So they aren't letting the people with equipment and the knowledge to come help. They're making them drive hundreds of miles to another county to get this license and this, and then telling them, and before you leave, you have to go get it retested. And wait, what? Let them come in and help fight the fires. What do you care if they're here for a couple of months?
Right.
And they don't meet your regulations. To me, this is beyond.
That's the thing, is that you put the regulations in place and now everyone's forced to follow it. So now it's like,
Well, I mean, I remember there was a story that came out that Oregon sent like 60 fire trucks down there to help mitigate these fires. The initial story was they were held up because of emission issues.
Well, I saw pictures of them sitting there and parked.
Now, I did see a correction to that statement. Now, whether that's true or not, but I saw some sort of somebody said, well, it's not because of emissions, it's vehicle inspections.
What's
which
the
to me,
difference?
I'm sitting there going,
what's the difference?
You're in a state of emergency. You have another state sending you fire trucks. What do you think? Their fire trucks are different than your fire trucks? I mean, a truck's a truck. I mean, they're here to help.
You think when we have a hurricane in Louisiana and they send power companies to come help us, you think we give a rat's
exactly.
ass? What? Hello?
That's my point.
Put them up in a hotel, feed them, and let them go to work.
How would anybody hold these vehicles? But that just shows you how ludicrous that state is.
Yep.
When it comes to this stuff. That's what I'm saying. They don't live in reality.
No.
I mean,
it's a delusional world.
If truly that state was facing truly an apocalyptic issue, I mean, the whole state's just going to fall apart because you just can't. Life doesn't work that way.
No, it does not.
It just does not work that way. You got to respond to a situation at that moment. You got to do what you got to do to maximize safety and to minimize the loss of life and property.
And then Sleepy Joe wants to fly into Los Angeles, so they clear the airways. So the planes that were dumping the water couldn't fly for how many hours? Really?
Yep. I mean, it's just,
I mean, this is beyond ridiculous.
And once again, as I said, they've approved where some of these houses are being built in the middle of that state's a dry state. And they get those high winds, those Santa Ana winds coming in there.
Wait.
I mean, I can't even imagine just on a day having 50 and 60 mile an hour winds blowing. That's just, that's just the wind. And that's like.
But that's also thinking about it if it was just an accident. But they found and arrested a number of arsonists. And I'd like to go ahead and bring this map up to both of y'all. Yeah. This is a map of where the fires are. And it's also a map of the new high-speed rail system. Jason, take a look at that and tell me what you think. Does anything look remotely interesting to those two pictures?
So the top is the fires. The top is the fire map of showing where all the fires break off, and now I'm looking at a map below, and this says California high-speed rail potential phasing, and it basically tracks in the same exact area.
So can you send that to Ian and let him grab
that as well?
It's exactly the same. What does that tell us?
There's like a suspicious, around the coast, it wraps around it, which is interesting.
This was kind of brought up during the Hawaii stuff.
Of course, yeah.
Well, they've been wanting to make Hollywood a smart 15-minute city, and L.A. possibly some of it falling into suit.
Yeah.
And that goes all the way to Las Vegas. And you see, that's another thing that causes me some grief and causes me some extreme stress. California wants to waste their water to save a little bitty fish, but they don't have a problem draining Nevada's water, the Hoover Dam, to pay for their electricity. So Las Vegas may not have any water in the near future to drink or do anything with, but California can piss away their water to save a little bitty fish. Really?
Because they got money.
Really?
Yeah.
I tell you what, how about we shut off the Hoover Dam, build back Lake Mead, and let California figure it out? See, I believe once you make a decision, you should be responsible for that. And if they've made that decision, that's part of their responsibility. If you don't like it, elect different people.
If you pull up a map, Ian, of California, and I found this pretty interesting. It just for whatever reason, it made me think of a program I watched. Our ancient history about what kind of things looked like back thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
But really, that whole center part of California, it kind of looks like somewhat of a depression in the middle. That used to be a giant lake.
Ocean. That was
It was a giant.
ocean.
It was a giant lake.
It was a lake, but it was also completely
It drained.
Mm-hmm.
It drained out. But I mean, that was once a giant inland sea for all intents. It was just a big giant lake. What it was.
Oh, that's where all these. Wow, look at all that. There's so many. Like looks like civilization has moved in there.
Well, that's where you go. You put everything in the valley, so to
Right.
speak, because that's where all the nutrients and everything's
Yeah.
green and there's
I see we got
water.
Fresno, Modesto, Stockton, Sacramento. It's all inside that big valley, like you're talking about. Is that what you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, you can kind of see the indent. I mean, literally, it's in the middle of the entire state of California. But I was watching some ancient, not archaeological, geologic of just how the United States has changed. The landmass has changed over millions of years, and that used to be a large body of water, which I found interesting, and it's just interesting to see that a state that has a water issue that at one time had this giant, giant inland lake that looks like one of the Great Lakes up north.
Yeah.
That I often wondered if that lake was still there, how the state of California would have evolved. But
did y'all see what one of the arsonists was arrested with? One of the arsonists in this fire situation had 5 cell phones and a United Nations prepaid debit card. Yes. What's going on there?
I don't know what's going on. I mean, I just, where are these people coming from? What is going on here? I mean, there's just something is just afoot.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel it. I don't know. I mean, there's, you can probably sit here and Google conspiracy theories on California wildfires and probably come up with a whole bunch of things. I don't necessarily discount them out the bat. I mean, you got to take all things with a grain of salt.
Right.
Sometimes the truth is somewhere lies in the middle. Sometimes the conspiracy is right.
That's right.
Sometimes the conspiracy is wrong.
Right now, the conspiracy theorists are up 32-0.
Yeah, well, they're doing pretty good right now, or at least if it's not exactly what they say, it's kind of in the ballpark of what they're originally predicting. So, but I'm reading here with these wind forecasts. They're talking about severe fire conditions will last through Wednesday, with wind gusts in the mountains reaching 65 miles an hour.
Cool. 65 miles an hour?
65-mile-an-hour winds.
That's
just a normal day. That's like you walking out there today. It's a pretty day outside where we're recording.
Yeah.
Imagine if the winds were blowing 65 miles an hour.
That's like hurricane level stuff.
It's not quite hurricane, but it's pretty good.
Well, 65 is the first hurricane.
I was 74. 74.
Okay, well.
It's 74 and higher. Is hurricane 4. But yeah,
it's close enough.
That's a strong tropical storm wind.
Yeah.
And to have basic continuous winds at 65 miles an hour, that's
man.
So you can imagine
tropical storm weather,
right? You can imagine. You can imagine what that does to fire. I mean, you just.
100%.
I mean, how that just
burns.
Ignites these fires and jumps them the way they jump, because they blow those embers into other areas and just lights up, and they just nothing to stop them. I mean, it's just
man, and everything's so dry over there.
Everything is very dry because it just doesn't rain.
Yep.
It just doesn't rain over there, and but I feel sorry for all of the Palisades and all that. I mean, it's just I mean, they got it rough, but I mean, they as a state, they have got to figure out a way of actually implementing common sense, practical measures to help themselves. To me, it's just how this, I personally think with a lot of these celebrities being affected, I think you might going to see some pressure because now the people who basically funnel all these goofy candidates.
Well, there has been a huge exodus of people from California in the last couple of years due to the taxes and some of the policies. And so much so that California has passed a law that says if you leave, you still have to pay state taxes for another 10 years.
Yeah, right.
Well, they're feeling the crunch. And something like this, I don't know. What's that going to do for them? I mean, people are already ready to leave now, and everybody says, "Oh, if Trump is elected president, I'm leaving the country." Well, your state's burning. Where are you going to go? So those same people are going to be moving elsewhere, and then try to change our states into the same mentality that they have over there, which I'm not for at all. So, but it's delusional. You use that word. These people work. We pay them to sing a song. We pay them to entertain us in a movie or a show or something. We don't pay them to tell us or push their political or religious or lack of political or lack of religious agendas on us. That's not what we pay them for. Do your job, entertain us, and then shut the hell up.
Exactly. Well, that's because it goes hand in hand with what government was originally meant to be, how it was supposed to function, what the goal was of why it was implemented the way it was. Unfortunately, it's turned into something else altogether. And for some of these governments are captured by people that really don't have a clue. They just don't. They don't know how to manage real world issues, or they're so afraid of actually doing something that might offend somebody or some group or some line of thinking that they just clam up and they don't say anything. And then, of course, these kind of disasters happen, and here we are.
I found this quote the other day, and I think this is a good time because you're talking about that. A country run by banks will always be in debt. Healthcare run by Big Pharma will never cure disease. A state run by war will never know peace. A nation run by the media will never know the truth. Think about that one for a minute.
Well, you saw also that the fire chief got released by the mayor.
No. And it's the mayor's fault that did it. It was the mayor making the problems. But let's blame somebody else.
I think she went off and went on a little trip. After she declared a state of emergency and went somewhere else. But yeah, I think the fire chief was complaining about the budget cuts that their department has sustained. I think I remember a figure of $40 million.
Well, it was $17 million last year, but over the last couple of years, it adds up to over $40 million.
So, and of course, I guess she committed the unpardonable sin of basically making her
look bad.
The mayor looked bad, and so the mayor said, I can't have you around, even though you are saying something truthful, but I'm just going to pretend I've done a great job. But
of course,
because
more of the delusion I was just talking about a few minutes ago.
Yeah, we are in this is a pickle, so it'll be very interesting. I mean, I know with the election of Trump, and I saw, if y'all remember in the news, there were a few governors saying they're going to Trump-proof their states or whatever the case may be, and I'm sitting here going, what exactly do you not want Trump to do? That is.
He doesn't want them to deport their bought and paid for votes in the next 4 years.
That's about right.
Well, and Sleepy Joe Biden comes in, and he's trying to have a law passed right now to make it really hard to drill oil in the Gulf of Mexico. Did you see that?
No, I did not.
They're trying to pass a law that says they're trying to make it really hard on Trump to push oil out and make the price of gasoline come down. So they're passing a law that says you can't drill oil in the Gulf of Mexico. Do you know what Trump's response was?
What's that?
I'll name it the Gulf of America then.
I didn't hear that.
So that's his response. He sees what they are trying to do. And it's ridiculous.
Right.
But you can see all these people asking for pardons from Sleepy Joe. So.
I never thought I would see our country that we would have people actively working against its own interest.
Mm-hmm.
It is unbelievable. Why wouldn't you not want to be energy independent and be an exporter of energy?
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Why do you want to be depending on another country for stuff? And you can apply that to all sort of things.
Mm-hmm.
I really have to wonder, what is the motivating factor of everything that we need from a national security standpoint? We are at the behest of basically a country, China, that is our enemy for all intents and purposes. The Chinese Communist Party is not a friend of America. We are business partners with them, but we're not friends with them.
Right.
And I really want to go back, blame Richard Nixon for opening up China to the world, and then all of a sudden when he opened up China, basically all these companies said, "Oh, look at all this cheap labor now we can use," and that began the slow migration of manufacturing out of this country. A lot of people attribute that to during the Reagan years. I believe it started with Nixon.
Yes.
It started with Nixon. And unfortunately, it was probably something that, of course, hindsight is 20/20.
Yeah.
And we know the fruits of what's happened with that. But it's done nothing for this country. It has basically made us a consumer country and not a producing country.
Yeah.
And you want to be a producing country. You don't want to be just a spending country.
Right.
Well, Chip Foose, one of the greatest custom car makers, and I may have said this on the show before, but it's a really prophetic saying. He says the real tragedy of our school systems today and social life today is that we're not teaching our kids to build anything. We're teaching them to buy something.
Yeah. I know.
Think about that. I have said it before. Yeah. I apologize to y'all and the listeners.
Think it needs to be said every day. It needs to be said every day that there's something fundamentally changed with us.
Right.
And it has done nothing but, I think, hurt us. Because to me, it's robbed people of a lot of self-worth. And you kind of caught some of this. And I remember some of the comments. And y'all will probably remember when the COVID outbreak broke out.
Yeah.
And people were being sent home and the economy was shut down. And I remember people saying, God, I feel kind of useless. I thought my job was really important. And it wasn't. What it came down to, who were the people that was first responders, were people that were critical to keeping your society going. Those were the people working.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it exposed an underbelly in this country. There are a lot of people doing jobs that really don't mean anything in the grand scheme of things. It really isn't.
Right.
They really, these jobs are basically feel good type things that
seat warmers. Yeah.
They don't. I mean, let's just be honest about it. They're not that important.
Right.
They only exist because our country has reached a level of success that we can, in essence, have a layer of feel good and waste.
Right.
That's what it does. That's what you're. It's sort of like people who buy art. You know.
Right.
Same thing. It's like, okay, I paid $50,000 for this painting. Really?
Yep.
I wouldn't pay $2 for it.
Right.
But, that's just, when people have large amounts of excess, that's what happens.
Yeah.
We do these things. So I don't know. I think it's a very complex issue in many ways, and I believe we need to. We've got to get back to some basic, and I hate to say the word common sense, but it's the only word I can think of.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you want to say practical, something that works, but we've got to get back to doing some things that actually make the everyday life of the American citizen better.
100% agreed.
Right.
100% agree. It's ridiculous. Well, and I'm sure there'll be more on the fire situation as things come out. We're learning more from our last week's episode, and I'm sure some more will come out on that, but I'm sure some more will come out on this fire, and let us know what you think.
Like Jason said earlier, I think there are probably some good people out there that are like honestly losing a lot of everything, and I feel very sad that I have been around many a hurricane, and of course have felt the effects of friends and family and even myself losing certain stuff, and so I can only imagine for families and people out there that are going through this is unfortunate, and it hurts even more that it's it feels like incompetence on a higher level, and that's really sad. One thing that's also happening, if I'm not mistaken, I think next Monday, whenever this episode drops, it will actually be the inauguration. So I forgot about that. Yep. But that's kind of interesting and kind of fun to hear about.
Next Monday, right?
Yeah, next Monday. So whenever you're hearing this episode, it is inauguration day, which is
remember, please do not fly on Monday. Leave the spots on the planes for all the liberals that said they're going to leave the country when Donald Trump is president. Let them go, please.
All right.
Please don't fly on that day so they can have all the space on the planes.
I was saying that just in case anything crazy happens, just know we're recording this the week before. So, but anyways, as you guys know, there are many ways where you can get in touch with us, and you can comment, like, and subscribe on all the different platforms that you enjoy. Like we've said before in the past, we have the website, retrospectpod.com.
Retrospectpodcast.com.
Podcast.com. Or you can email us at getoffendedtogether@gmail.com as well. And until next week, thank you so much for listening. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everyone. God bless.
Hey, you live most of your life inside of your head. Make sure it's a nice place to be. You're the best. Peace.